People love a good mystery, and one of the most intriguing ones is the story of the lost colony of Roanoke. More than 100 people started this English settlement, but when the English returned 3 years later, it was all overgrown and abandoned. They found tools, rifles, and a strange message carved into a tree, Cro and Croatan. The question is, what really happened to this mysterious lost colony? Let's go back in time and uncover the truth. In 1587, Governor John White and 117 colonists, including 97 men, 17 women, and 9 young boys, landed on the northern tip of what is now North Carolina. This spot wasn't their first choice originally. They intended to land further north at Chesapeake Bay, which later became the successful British colony of Jamestown. However, Captain Simon Fernandez refused to sail north, so the colonists had to settle in Roanoke. The plan was just a brief stop to pick up 15 men left there 2 years ago. But the ship captain insisted on unloading the colonists in Roanoke. To their surprise, the 15 men they meant to meet were nowhere to be found. Instead, the colonists discovered signs of a massacre, marking an unfortunate and challenging beginning for the new colony. This is Governor John White's second journey to Roanoke. And for the British, it's one of several attempts to establish a successful settlement in the New World. In 1578, Queen Elizabeth, I assigned Sir Humphrey Gilbert the task of exploring unclaimed lands in the New World, avoiding areas already taken by the Spanish to secure England's interests. Gilbert found suitable locations for a permanent colony on his first expedition, but his ship was lost in a shipwreck during the second attempt. After Gilbert's death, his half-brother Walter Raleigh took over and planned to explore lands from Spanish Florida to the Arctic for potential colonization. John White, the soon-to-be governor, is part of Raleigh's second expedition in 1585. The group, including a garrison of troops, lands in Roanoke with the mission to establish a fort for consolidating British power in the New World. Initial interactions with the local Native Americans are positive after establishing contact. The Roanoke and Croatan tribes were friendly to the British. Representatives from these tribes, Wanchese and Monteo, sailed with John White to England and met Queen Elizabeth's court. Monteo even became the first Native American to be baptized as a Protestant. However, when they returned to the New World, the British garrison commander caused problems by attacking native villages. This quickly made the relations with other tribes go bad. The commander led 2 campaigns against these villages within a few months, creating tension and trouble. Having put the proverbial stone into the hornet's nest, the British fort was soon under continual attack, and when Sir Francis Drake passed by the region on one of his New World expeditions, the soldiers in the fort raced to the ship to be rescued. Their eagerness to embark caused them to leave 3 guys behind who had been on an adventure in the woods. When the British returned to the colony later that year, they found the fort utterly abandoned, and the 3 soldiers who'd been left in the woods were nowhere to be seen. Sir Richard Grenville, commander of the first expedition, then chose to leave another 15 men behind to defend the fort's remnants, giving them a 2-year supply of food before returning to England. At this point, John White arrived in Roanoke, intending to reunite with the 15 men who had been abandoned 2 years before. To no one's astonishment, the soldiers were missing, and they would never be heard from again, most likely slaughtered by the indigenous. Despite the unfriendly natives, ship captain Simon Fernandez pushed the colonists to remain where they were, and 9 days later, colonist George Howe was slain by American Indians while crabbing on the coast. White did not want to further irritate the people. Therefore, he went to tremendous measures to heal relations. He accomplished this by enlisting Monteo's assistance in brokering peace between the colony and the Croatans, who resided nearby on Hatteras Island. Unfortunately, Wanchese had soured on the British during his stay in England and regarded the impending arrival of British colonists as an invading army. Legend has it that he joined in the attack on the 15 men left behind the second time on Roanoke. Where the first 2 colony attempts had failed, the third began to thrive. Rather than recruiting employees or military soldiers, White invited families with a genuine interest in the land they were fighting for. The colony's success or failure would determine their own personal success or failure, so they had plenty of incentive to make the venture work. On August 18, 1587, because they got to the New World too late to cultivate food, the colonists faced difficulties upon their arrival. John White returned to England for supplies in an attempt to rescue the colony, but the war kept him away for 3 years. Upon his return in 1590, he discovered the colony had been abandoned. Things were strewn all over the place, and the structures were overgrown with weeds. Precious items such as jewelry were abandoned, and the word Croatan was carved on a tree. Though he was unable to verify it, John White suspected that the colonists may have relocated to Hatteras Island alongside the Croatans. A storm forced him to return to England. Therefore, he was never able to save the colonists. The majority of people believe that the carvings and a code left by John White are the reason they most likely migrated to live among the Croatans. Another protective wall had the word Croatan on it, implying that they were in danger. 3 years after John White's death, the colonists' whereabouts are still unknown. In 2013, a trip to Croatan Island revealed European artifacts like a rapier, a gun barrel, lead shot, copper scraps, and a slate with a lead pencil. This strongly supports the idea that the Roanoke colonists moved south and merged with the Croatan people. In the 1700s, Native Americans with gray eyes, claiming to be descendants of white settlers, supported the original story. While British items may have come from later trading, trash pits indicate the Roanoke settlers likely moved here instead of facing starvation or hostile tribes. Trash pits showed a shift from fish to deer, suggesting natives used European guns provided by the colonists. Despite past hostilities, native tribes were often accepting of outsiders. Many English colonists chose to stay with native tribes over the years rather than returning home. The most likely explanation for the disappearance of the Roanoke colony is that they joined the Croatan tribe to survive. Other theories, like a massacre, are less probable because no remains were found when John White returned. The mystery is more puzzling than expected. Evidence suggests the colonists faced starvation and hostility, prompting them to seek refuge with a friendly tribe. However, some imaginative theories involve aliens, but there's no sensible reason why aliens would abduct the entire colony. So, don't worry about alien brain, eating threats. The Roanoke mystery likely boils down to settlers choosing to live with a welcoming tribe instead of facing starvation. Share your thoughts on what happened to the lost settlers in the comments.